Uh, okay, so let us look at the questions. The more questions, I was looking forward to more questions. Uh, but to begin with, okay, let us take few questions. How to balance the preparation between paper one and paper two? Who would like to answer that?
Yeah, I'll do that, Payal.
Okay, Amrit, go ahead.
Uh, so, different people, first of all, study more actively at different times of the day. Some people like to wake up at night, and some people are day people. So, fix that for yourself. See when you are more active, and there is nothing wrong with that. Even if someone tells you wake up throughout the whole night, do that. That's one. Second, pay more attention to something that is worrying you more in advance. For example, if you are not being able to solve questions related to romanticism, it would be advisable to first finish that off, so that the more you advance, you will become more and more confident, because the things that you are easily able to remember, they will be remembered anyway. And as for the marks, both of the papers are equally important. So when you're prioritizing, do it on the basis of which one can you do later, like which one is more difficult. If you start doing the difficult things later on, then they will be left out. It is advisable to pick up the more difficult things first. For example, a lot of people are scared of modernism, so first do modernism, then you go on to romanticism or the other things, because Wordsworth and all, most of them have heard from their until their class 10 itself, so it's easier to relate or maybe get those poetry lines. That would be all that I would have to say. Suit your comforts. Don't try to do it the way it is prescribed.
Okay.
With Payal, hello.
Yes, yes, Gunjan.
Can you please repeat the question?
How to balance the preparation between paper one and paper two?
Yeah, that was the question. How to balance between paper one and paper two? See, many people have misconception that paper one is very easy, so I'll prepare it in the last hours. They leave it out for last month. So it isn't like that. Paper one, paper two, both have equal weightage. Like there are 50 questions asked in paper one, and each carries 2 marks. So 100 marks you'll miss if you'll prepare like that. What you need to do is that you should give equal weightage to paper one also, and start preparing it from the start only, from the beginning only. At least give 2 to 3 hours daily to paper one. Paper one has total 10 units, 10 topics. So you can start selecting the topics as per your choice. Like you can start with research aptitude or teaching aptitude or higher education as per your wish. But start preparing from the very beginning. At least give 2 hours daily to paper one. Don't leave it out for the last moment, like I'll prepare it, it's very easy, the questions are not that much difficult, so I can manage in 1 month, or I'll just solve the question papers and I can manage, I'll get the required marks. No, it's not like that. uh, I got 76 marks, 38 questions were right from paper one, and that added to my marks. Matlab, the most important thing of me getting JRF was paper one only. So if you leave paper one, then you can miss JRF. That is my point. Yes, Payal.
Yes, certainly. I also feel this, that the difference that can this balancing, or this act of balancing, or this act of in fact, if you ignore paper one, what you would do, you might get net. But remember, for JRF, you need that balance. You need to maintain that balance between paper one and two. I wouldn't say that 2 hours or half an hour or 1 hour or whatever. That is your choice. Again, it is if you are really good in DI and mathematics, and you're already reading newspapers, perhaps you can go for half an hour. But the key is, again, the key is continuity. As
Yes.
all of us have said, the key is continuity, because if you do not devote at least an hour to paper one daily, what would eventually happen is perhaps you clear net. Perhaps you clear net because you're very good, and it's one third of paper one is just one third of the marks, and two third is your paper two. What happens is when you sit for exams like entrance of uh, Central University of Hyderabad, or for that matter JNU, because if you have sat for the examinations, you know that the papers are totally kind of centered on research, questions on research, not just British history or English. They're the questions are more shifted towards research and research methodology. So I would suggest that instead of going by this myth, or going by this idea that because I'm really good in paper two, I can just ignore paper one, please maintain that balance. Balance could just mean giving half an hour to that paper daily. It's about continuity. It's about how sincere you are with paper one. So do it daily. And again, solve the papers. So Saturday, Sunday, sit down and solve one paper. If you cannot do it daily also, then still you need to take out time, like 3-4 days a week, where you sit down and solve paper one, because paper one is more of has this approach where you need to solve. It's a solution that you have to find. It's not knowing or not knowing. A few questions there, especially mathematics and comprehension, it is about finding out answers. So you have to, it's practice based. You have to practice. Again, without practice, I think Nisarga mentioned this, that you need to adapt to the kind of examination room environment. That is very important. It is not only for NET, for any competitive exams that you're preparing for, I would tell this. If you're, so what I did, I'm just saying what I did rather than telling you what to do. I would sit with the paper and I would time myself. So I would time myself. There would be no one. Usually it would be library. It would be a library in my hometown. So there's no one to disturb me. I will time myself and then I'll see how much do I know. What I didn't know, I would just write down the names. I told you I'll write down the names and then make the list and everything. But the thing is that you also need to adapt to that pressure of an exam, right? Because that kind of helps improve your performance. If you're not used to writing exams, then at the exam hall, perhaps you might just go blank. That also happens at times. So put yourself in an exam-like situation where things would become easier for you because of practice. Okay. Next. Okay, so I'll just read. Yes, solving question papers is very important, and moreover, the Wikipedia helps a lot. Entrance exam of DU, JNU, HCU are approaching. Can you suggest some tips for MPhil and PhD? We don't have someone from HCU. We can help you. Okay, HCU, I can tell you what the paper is like. And JNU, DU, IFLU is also there. So you all can also put Central University, all the Central University, we have the QCET examination also. And I think all of us have appeared for these examinations. So can you suggest some tips? JNU PhD is through JRF. So if you have a JRF, you have to sit for an interview. I can tell you that. And the interview is, the questions in the interview are based on your synopsis. So it's mostly dependent on how articulate you are in defending your whatever you have submitted as your synopsis. That is why I say that NET is not the goal. So if you're just preparing for time while, keep in mind that it's a competition and prepare for it. But then also once you're done with NET, go beyond and try to know more things. How to prepare a synopsis, that is, now these questions, PhD, MPhil, and preparing a synopsis, this will be the last half. Okay, the last half where we'll talk about research. So I'm just leaving it for the third half. Other questions? You can also unmute yourselves and ask questions if you want. But first, raise your hands, please.
Let me answer one of the questions that I found out. That is, I haven't asked this before as well. Even last night, a student asked me that it's the net is on 15, so what to do in this meanwhile? I think the best way of studying so quickly is Wikipedia. Just go on Wikipedia, study one topic, and then you have the hyperlink for another topic. Just go one after another. Don't think about even what is going to appear in the exam. Just read and read and read. That's the best way, I think,
I can do
for
this. It's just perhaps it's just a suggestion. If you will like it, I can do this. So I made a list of writers. Okay, I made a list of writers and important works. I shared it. I have shared it with my students earlier. I can share it in the group. Now these writers, I have seen that these writers and these works are important. Now what you do? You don't go to any history of English literature book right now. Go to the summaries. Go to the summaries. Go to various resources that you get on the internet, and read about the texts. So read about the text. Read the so where the writer is just the writer is mentioned. Perhaps a few works are not that important, but other works like perhaps let me give you an example. Jane Austen. In Jane Austen, you see that in her works, what are the questions asked around her works? It is usually the places, the houses. The houses and the places become very important in the work. So you have this question, which of these work has a location in Baths? Okay, and then you have such questions like about the heroine, or so locations become important, houses become important, the female characters become important. So then you need to have a detailed, you need to know the text in detail. But other writers and other works, if you look at something like German literature or Russian literature, for that matter, the questions are very superficial. If you have just gone through the first page of Wikipedia, you get the answer there. I remember one of the questions was just the first line from Wikipedia, and I was like totally mesmerized how they set question papers. So, and that to this in a way where in this way they set up question paper to decide how the future professors and teachers would be. So that was kind of shocking. But what you can do is this right now. Yes, you have to rely on the internet right now, because or any material that you have, because going into a detailed study in 15 days is not a suggestion that anyone would make. If you have notes, I had notes. I also prepared, just like I prepared for so what happened was I was preparing for UPSC, and my exam ends in June, and I took a week-long break, and then I was to prepare for NET. 1 month devoted to NET, but then again, Ashutosh sir passed away, and I was totally devastated. I could not prepare. Last 7 days, where I got into sense, and I was like, I need to do this. Because sir believed in me. So what I relied on was my notes. I just went through my notes. I didn't do anything. And these, so if you have notes, stick to them. If you don't have notes, go to Wikipedia and go to a list of writers and important works prepared via question papers. Now I know you don't have time to sit down, look through question papers and then form that list. So perhaps I'll provide that list in our WhatsApp group.
Hello. Yeah, just one small suggestion to make. If you could learn the things in terms of oppositions, for example, if you are reading about romanticism, go to the opposite, neoclassicism, and finish that. If you read chapters in opposition, the things will tend to stay in your mind for longer. It's because once you start to contrast things, there's a learning tendency that you'll remember it better by differentiation. So try to learn opposing chapters together. Make your sets of those kinds of chapters. For instance, modernism will be opposed to romanticism. Humanism will be opposed to the kind of, if you read the old English literature, then you don't have as much humanism there. So those are the things. Read it in terms of oppositions, even theories for that matter.
Yeah, one more thing, please, because this happens, as Amrit said, that the idea of beginning from the very beginning. So what people do is that they eventually end up doing a kind of PhD on someone like on the Anglo-Saxon writers, or perhaps Chaucer. They'll do a PhD on Chaucer, and then they'll do nothing with the postmoderns and the magic realism or science fiction or scientific fiction and Dadaism and all those movements that appear at the very end of the 20th century. So that becomes an important area. So you also need to know which are the areas which are important. Now, because no one asked this, but the thing is that it is divided into 10 portions, right? But if you are preparing for a competitive exam, remember time viability is one touchstone, one parameter which you need to look for. What I did, again, it is something which I did. I don't know if it suits you. I started with the novels. More questions are from novels. Now, if I read a novel, there are chances that there might be one question, or that there might be two questions from that novel. But if I read a poem by a writer, by a poet might have written 100 poems. A poet might have written like 100 poems. And even if I have read that poem, there are chances that I won't remember the lines. And they have asked lines, right? They have asked lines. They have just fill in the blanks where you had to complete the lines. So if you see the time viability, going through novels is a better option, is more time viable than compared to poetry. So I began with novels, then I went to drama, and drama, I divided drama also into two. So it was post-Shakespeare and pre-Shakespeare. And then there was poetry. So the first 5 section and short fiction or short stories, because everyone is like short story, something very newly added. But remember, the question would be like 1 or 2 questions from there. So you need to think of the time viability also. You read a novel, there are more chances of a question coming from there. Like an author can write, how many novels can an author write? Yes, there are writers who have written 100 novels, but on an average, you have 5 to 6 important novels of a writer. But again, you pick someone like Blake, you have numerous poems, and the poems won't end, and their importance won't end. So when you see the time viability, novels, go to drama, and then go to poetry or short fiction, whatever you feel like, right?
Yes, Payal, I would like to add
Yes.
About the preparation in the last 15 days. I would like to share my experience, what I used to do in the last 15, 20, 30 days. What I used to do each morning after waking up and before sleeping, I used to read at least one summary daily. Then after that, means I used to wake up at 3 in the morning, and then from 3:30 I used to read a summary daily, and then before sleeping also. Then after that, from 7:30, from 8 to 11, I used to solve question paper, one set daily. And then the second half, means in the afternoon, I used to search out the answers which I could not write it correctly, which I didn't know. I used to find the answer in the second half. So what happens that if you don't know one answer, and when you search that particular answer, you also search 4 answers, means 4 options. You get to know 4 topics, new topics to learn. So that will be the advantage of solving question paper in these last days. And then in the evening time, I used to revise paper 1 hour. And at night, like from 7 to 8 to 9, I used to revise my notes from paper 2, English literature. And that is all. Yes, Payal.
Okay, so anyone else who would like to add on for these 50, like what to do in these 15 days? It's really sad. I do realize that neither are we in a mental, emotional, or a physical state where we are ready to give an examination. For the matter of fact, I have to force myself to even write a research paper at this moment. I don't know how you feel about it, but right now, academic activities, you're just doing it to be involved. You're doing it to be busy. it is not something that is coming very instinctively right now. So yeah, but again, we cannot do anything because there is an exam that we have to appear for. The only way out is to find these shortcuts. Now I can just tell you, as one of you have rightly mentioned, that these questions are very superficial. I won't say that all of them, right? Because there's this usual complaint that they'll be asking about news and they'll be asking about dogs. What is that? Like, what use is that? But let me tell you, that is just 10% of the paper. I don't think even 10 questions would be asking you about the dogs and the cats and everything. The questions are usually like they have been. I would still say that it requires improvement, but there has been a certain improvement uh, where there has been a certain improvement where they have made it more of understanding and critique based, where you have to go through via critical thinking rather than just memorizing facts. And I have given you examples of that, right? So there was a poem by W.B. Yeats and it's a 4-line poem, and it was there, and the question was, what is the leading emotion? So there were 4 emotions. What is the leading emotion? So such questions, again, even if you, it doesn't require rote learning, it requires an understanding, which again is not very up to the mark, but it is something which draws you near. In JNU, the questions are MPhil questions. I think there were just 25 questions previous year, and these 25 questions, and you had a lot of time, but then these questions were really questions which required critical thinking and an understanding of criticism and literary theory, for that matter. So yes, it is a different approach, but then the only thing that you can do is prepare for NET, get through it, and then read more, keep on reading. So you have to have 2 different approaches. And then as a research scholar, you later you also know, you should know how to use them together. So you have the ideas, and then you know about lot many texts, so how to use them together in your paper, that is also one thing which we can talk about. Okay, so how to join the WhatsApp group? I'm just giving you a number. Ping me on that number. I'll add you to the WhatsApp group. Also, I think we'll share the link so that if your friends are already in that WhatsApp group, they can share the link with you. You can also follow us on our YouTube channel, and for these videos, we'll cut it down in 3 portions. And other than that, okay, so do you guys, like 4 of you, do you see any other question which you would like to answer, or should we move to the second portion, that is paper 1? Or anyone among the participants, would you just raise your hand and we'll allow you to speak? It is meant to be an interactive session.
Well, there's one question that I would like to answer. Uh, how to tackle post-colonial writers and cultural studies? This is actually 2 questions. For post-colonial writers, I would suggest just identifying those uh, writers who come again and again and read them on Wikipedia. For example, um, uh, James Coetzee or Chinua Achebe. Identifying them, because all the post-colonial writers are not important. Uh, Only some of these are important. And also for the major writers, go for the minor works. I mean, for Chinua Achebe, read his minor works, not Things Fall Apart. For the minor writers, go for their major works. That one approach that I think is helpful. For cultural studies, yeah, we'll have a session on that, I think, later on.
Cultural studies, I can name n number of books, but then the thing is the availability of, again, would you buy that book now and would you read that? Because these books are really lengthy and it has a lot of complex ideas in it. I can give you a list. We can surely share a list on the WhatsApp group and our Facebook page if you want. But we'll be having sessions too on cultural studies. And what Yeah, what else? Like one thing that Nisarga pointed out, major works, minor works of major writers and major works of minor writers. That is one thing that I also go by. But also, if you are reading the major works of major writers, something like Things Fall Apart by Chinua Achebe, if you're reading Achebe, then be very sure that you go for the minutest detail, because you know that they are not going to ask you the protagonist then they'll be asking you questions which are somewhere deep into the text, right? But if they are discussing some other text, perhaps we talk about African literature, if they are discussing some text that like few of us know, then perhaps something like The King's Horseman, which not everyone knows. So there they can just ask you about the lead character or what the story is about. So in fact, Americana also, they have asked questions, like they've just given the plot and then find which work uh, the plot relates to. So it's not that difficult, but yes, do pay attention to that. If it's a major writer, go for the minor work. If it is minor writer, please don't waste your time with minor works of minor writers. You're going nowhere with that. You're just it will, like, knowledge never goes waste, but then it won't help you in your preparation for net. That one thing that is that I'm pretty sure about.
Yes, well, can I take one question?
Yes.
I can see one question asked by participant. I usually end up solving all the options of a given MCQ. This is not for all the MCQ, but is the case for many of them. So this process takes like 5 to 6 hours on one paper. I want to cut down this time. How should I approach the paper otherwise? Okay, when I said that in the first half, I used to solve the question paper. In the second half, I used to search the answers. What I wanted to add to this is that you need not search all the options, all the given options. You need to find only the answer of a particular question, and you need not you need to give only a glance to the answer. And when you find the answer to a particular question, don't go on searching the other answer of the other questions, means other options also, because it will obviously take 5 to 6 hours or more than that. So if you get the answer of a particular question, just stop there, move to the next question. Okay, Payal.
Hello, Payal, I just wanted to add one thing here with this
Yes,
question.
yes.
Uh, the requirement about this could also be like going on to multiple things is not advisable. So how you tackle that? To tackle that, you have to understand that the ages are based on certain fixed characteristics which vary only a little. For example, no romantic things like Eliot. Okay, so that's why I mentioned contrasting is very important. You will find similarities between Wordsworth and Shelley. So the differences part between them will not be important too much till you are giving the UGC NET exam. Those differences will become important only when you're applying for a PhD or submitting a synopsis. For the UGC NET purpose, you should first look for the similarities, which means that you study in terms of contrasts and similarities. Uh, and once you start doing that, then many of the options you will find placed in different questions. And once you start tracking that, then the confusions will disappear. For example, the name of the same text might be mentioned in multiple questions. So one of the ways to answer such questions is, if you know what's wrong, then you know what's right. Sometimes you have to pick out what's wrong, and then you ultimately get the right answer, even if you don't know what the right answer was. So that approach also is useful in the exams. I think many of us would have faced the same thing even during the exam inside the hall.
Yeah, actually, this happened with me. There was this question about a poem of Tennyson. So I didn't know the answer, but I knew what, like, the other three options was, they were not the answers. So if you know that the other three are what you've read, and you know that this is not these are, you cancel them out. So you're just left with one. Crossing the bar was the answer. Now, you can also use that logic, going by that logic, where you cancel out the things that you feel are not the answer. So cancel out these or those options which are not the answer, and then find then that would lead you closer to the answer. Rightly said.
Yeah, yeah, I think that's a very important point. You just have to be some kind of a detective in the examination hall. Apply your common sense and trust your instincts. That's quite advice. That's quite underrated, but important, I think.
Yes, things
One,
often
yeah,
repeated but rarely taken into account.
one small, a little small suggestion. I don't know whether somebody else already made the point. It's advisable to read up the intellectual history of Europe to better understand the English literature history. Now, what does intellectual history of Europe mean? Of course, not possible in a small time, not in these 13 days. But
Don't,
if you're looking at,
yeah, just
if
don't do it now. You can do it afterwards for sure.
yeah, so do it afterwards. It's basically philosophy and critical theory. Once you study the history of philosophy a little bit in England, then you are better able to understand critical theory. And it's called intellectual history classes. It's available on YouTube again.
Yes, and I think a certain idea, basic or a foregrounding of British history for that matter, or the British history for that matter, is required to understand the texts, because that is where the language and the literature originates. So you cannot just say that no, it's very Eurocentric, I don't want to learn that. Then you cannot even appear for net, perhaps. Uh, so you'll have to go through these uh, texts. Okay, any other questions that you would like to answer, or any other participant would like to ask a question? So how to prepare a synopsis in PhD examination, we are discussing it after this. Good books for paper one. See, one thing with paper one, the problem is that uh, you can go to any book that you want. Um, if you all have any suggestion, because I didn't go to any particular book for that matter. So do you have any suggestion for paper one? For me, paper one came with the preparation of UPSC. So because I was preparing for CSE, I somehow prepared for paper one too. And research, yeah, research methodology was something which, again, I was prepared for it because of practice, through practice.
Yes, for paper one, you can go for any book, either KVS Madan's book or Truman's or Arihant's. I particularly referred KVS Madan's book. That was a good book.
Okay, KVS Madan, I would say, it's good. I'm not saying that's not good, but it's too detailed. So please be very, do it.
Yeah,
But,
yeah.
caveat is required. Like,
Uh,
don't.
I started reading KVS Madan from the start only. Like I said, I daily used to give 2 hours time to paper one. So in that way, I finished whole KVS Madan. I went through each and every chapter line by line and made my own notes from that particular book.
Okay, so great. I'm more of a visual learner. I like to watch. Okay, we can actually we have already suggested you videos where you could get open lectures and free lectures. You have Howard University lectures. I'll in fact send you lectures from professors on critical theory also. If uh, I'll share the link. So from like whatever I watch, I can share it with you. Even others can share it with you in the WhatsApp group. How to approach literary theory and cultural studies. Now, cultural studies, again, I would say that you can use Routledge's Routledge has this a book which is kind of an introduction to cultural studies, but it is again a very very thick, like I don't know if I can suggest that or not, like should I suggest it or not, given the time. I can tell you one thing. Okay, so I don't know if you know about it or not. there is this website, it's a government initiative called EPG Pathshala. There you have lessons on cultural studies. There you have lessons on cultural studies. So you can, it's by Ministry of Human Resource Development, so it's free and it's available to everyone. So, and it has few good lessons on cultural studies, so you can watch that also. Other than that, there are YouTube videos which we can always share, and books. I won't suggest reading them now if you're asking this question from the point of view of net. If you have done net and if you're planning to go for research, or you're asking it from the point of view of research, then I can give you a list of books. But for net, please don't use that method where you would read books, and that too with 15 days in your hands. It's not a good idea. Literary theory, you already have Pramod K. Nair. And other books, I think beginning theory is also there. There's a book by an Indian author, I forget the name. Okay, so I'll share it. I have 5 books with myself. I'll share those 5 books, and if you find that any one of these books would help you, you can buy it and read it for yourself. So but yes, so for cultural studies, once do go through EPG Pathshala lessons.
There's one more suggestion. The NPTEL website, NPTEL YouTube channel also has similarly a lot of videos.
Yes.
On which we will find Anand Prakash and James Singh.
Yeah, so and you're talking about NPTEL. It is again a government venture, and so it's available for all, and it's free, and you should go and watch that. See, we have resources. The problem is that we don't get to know about the resources. It's not that it's not there. It's already there, and it's there for free, and still we are paying for it. That is where the problem begins. Do you have any questions, or should we move to paper 1? You can you unmute yourselves, or have I mute can you unmute yourself? You can unmute yourself, raise your hands, unmute yourself, and ask questions if you want. Anyone? Okay, so let us, because we don't have much time and perhaps Gunjan will have to leave, I'll just take 15 minutes, Gunjan. I'm really sorry this really extended long. This was supposed to be an hour long. It is already 1.5 hour.
I can be with you more 10 to 15 minutes. I can be with you.
Okay, so let us discuss research, because please tell how to approach literary criticism. We are already dealing with many things in literary criticism in our sessions. We have already advised you 2 books, The Beginning Theory. Okay, literary criticism. I'm sorry. Literary criticism. Anyone? Yes, we forgot to discuss literary criticism because we were discussing literary theory. So literary criticism. What would you suggest?
Hello. Yeah, there's one book by Das and Mohanty. It's a set of, I think, 20 essays or so.
Yes.
There's another by Che and Govera, something like that. What's the name? Enright and Govera, right? That's the second book. It's basically the same essays, but if you read the introduction of Enright and Shikera, you get a clear idea of why theory is written at all. Why criticism has been written at all.
Is there at all? Again, like I can tell you what my approach was. If not just because of these, if you have to prepare for these 15 days, please, you can do this. You can pick up Introduction to Criticism by B. Prashad, and you can pick few essays from Enright and Shikera or Das and Mohanty. What else you can do if you have time? And if you're not preparing for this one and you're preparing for later on, see, certain texts are very important, and you cannot you cannot escape those texts. Republic Book 9 and 10 by Plato. there have been instances where in net you have been asked questions like what is the object, or what is the object that Plato refers to kind of explain his idea of imitation of an imitation. So those ideas, so the idea of mimesis and imitation, and how now if questions like this, these are asked in a book, it is usually explained via the example of a tree, but Plato uses the example of carpenter and beds and benches. So if you have just learned, just gone through the introduction, you will go for the the incorrect option. So what I would suggest is that if you have time, there are few texts that you will have to read. A few of them you will find in Enright and Chekera and Das and Mohanty's. Others you can easily, the translated version of Greco-Roman criticism, you can just download the PDF from anywhere.
Yeah, for literary criticism, I think for literary theory actually, I think there are general books on introductions and all. Now you have to decide what you are reading for. If you are reading for net, then you have to go for mostly the writers who have written upon these theories, the title of their books, and what they say, the basic points. If it's about research, then you have to go for the primary text. Then you cannot rely on the introduction. You have to go for, say, if you're studying Derrida, you have to go and read of grammatology rather than just reading an introduction on Derrida, because these introductions can be very misleading. Even
Yes.
the best writers are misleading.
Yeah, and it's not just an intro. See, first of all, it's there's the translation. So even if you read it, you would read it of grammatology, you're reading it in a translation by Spivak, and later, like French itself being translated to English is difficult, and then it being translated by Spivak makes it more difficult. And then just when a third person is writing an introduction on that, they usually end up adding their own spin to it, adding their own ideas to it. So you have to take it with a tinge of salt. You cannot just say that, okay, these are the ideas of Derrida. That could just be the idea of the writer who's writing about Derrida. But again, if you're preparing for net, pick up any introductory book, because the questions that they ask you will get the answers therein. Okay, so yeah, the book by Peter Barry is The Beginning Theory.